Good evening. Welcome to my channel. My name is David Okon. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you everyone who have been watching my videos, especially the video I recorded concerning my first poetry. The poetry I wrote, the poetry I'm still writing now, work in progress, and just trying to slightly change the tone of my dispensation with the topic of wealth, the topics of the economies of the world, and of also poverty in the world, and the proper contradiction happening in every continent, every countries of the world. And today I will be reading from a draft, what is still a draft, work in progress. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And the first one was posted a couple of days ago, and there have been some good response, for the very first poetry recorded in this program. And I'm so happy, but the theme is the same with what I have been recording in my videos about the cost of living crisis. The cost of living crisis, like I said previously, is about wealth, it's about poverty, it's about income, it's about lack, it's about capitalism, it's about public policy, private companies, private businesses, public businesses, and everything else which happens in the world, which concerns development, also which concerns the culture of the world in every country, because the cost of living is a global crisis. And I'll be talking about that. This time I've decided to write a poetry depicting conditions in Great Britain. Great Britain is a leading country of the world in history, in contemporary times. It actually leads the globe, toward the future of globalization. It is at the center of capitalism. The city of London is actually the seat of global financial economy. Great Britain is a great country indeed, and full of wealth, full of affluence, with capitalism operating at its most effective. In terms of development, is performing at this excellence. What I have said also with regards to condition of society is more to do with what happens in terms of wealth distribution, capitalism concentrating wealth in the hands of the few at the top, taking the wealth from the hands of the few, of the many at the bottom of the pile. This is a system of rule, and it is actually brutal, it is violent. It needs to be controlled, it needs to be managed by government intervening in the economy to moderate what is an extreme form of capitalism, such as created incidents of the cost of living crisis. Cost of living crisis is a symptom, and like I said, this poetry is not going to talk directly about the cost of living crisis. It's going to talk about the fundamentals. It's a poetry. It is abstract in many ways, but it is for you to judge and decide what you think. Is an experiment. I'm still writing this poetry, and I'm going to read it in a second. It's set in Britain, and looking at the power that Britain is, looking at the wealth, and looking at the at the different factors of society, environment, politics, the people, and the culture, the progress we have made. And what we need to pay attention to is a portraiture of what society represents, as in my imagination and also in my creating this poetry. So look at poverty in Britain, which is actually the title I've given, the working title I've given to this poetry, and it may not be the same tomorrow or the day after, because this is changing all the time. I'm writing it over and over and just developing the material. Thank you so much for your response, for your participating in this channel. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, and support it, share it with family and friends, present it in ways you see fit. To talk about poverty in Britain, which is the working title of this poetry, written by myself, which I'm still writing, and the reading looking something resembling what I am about to start reading. There was once a country called Britain, when huge champions ruled and frail enemies of the land fell and acted in serfdoms. Britain is a country built on the concept and precepts of rule, of dynasty, of empires, of imperialism. These are some of the historical perspective we see in the globe. Is replicated under capitalism across the globe, and so serfdoms, people vanquished in war, people vanquished under colonialism, people under siege, the serfs and the landlords and the landlords, the people sitting at the apex of society, ruling over the many, the few at the top, the people at the bottom being ruled by the many. These are serfs, these are slaves, and the masters coexisting in the same communities, in the same societies. Most of the captives became manifest culprits, accessing frightful spirits and powers which kept ruling elites in prison, seeking deliverances from every manifesting foul demons of wrath, defiling the white lands of Britain, causing many souls to bleed dry, falling flat-faced under the evil spell, holding innocent children under every bright light, stranding under the missions of gross darkness and no longer shining, to support politicians and every spokesman prophesying messages copied and pasted to deceive and to persuade every gate of the British states and estates of rule, champions of the world. Great Britain, a country known in history and respected globally today, Britain leads the globe. The kingdom had failed. There are so many positives and negatives. Violence in the face of wealth and power, affluence, potential peace, postponed, promises unkept, policies of the state profaned. As we walk along the plain of this empire, the kingdom had failed and their provisions have ceased. People in need, people in want, no longer attended to at the bottom of the pile. The compromise remain unshut, and the enemies remain in our midst, and continuing to steal the glory that was Britain. Change had come. At the top, the few in power abdicating abdication. The glory of the land faces turmoil, peace at stake. Continuing to steal the glory of Britain, and the darkened lightning spewed burning bloods in horrid battles, and the central brigades, defying stately commands, produced the unwanted spells of sermon death, prevailing under the aegis of every untested chief, championing every pale mission, prosecuting every rude estate. There were known these traitors who were those caught visiting the state and listening to every national secrets. Legal violence poured salt into the soul of the estate and mocked the Christian faith, leading sheep astray, spitting in the faces of ancestors. Shame, sitting alongside the glory that Britain was, that Britain is, well, sitting alongside poverty, victory, and defeat, walking side by side. Decades later, the country stopped the Gospels and wailed in horrific symphonies in the open windows. Fast forward, the scenes are set in Great Britain, where holy brides intently display latently colorful dreams of unending lustfulness. There are offenses, there are lawlessness, alongside righteousness, peace and war, walking side by side. In the open doors, wielded arrows flew past closed windows, leaving all their powers which disarmed the enemies, calling upon all the gallant pedigrees of the state, wailing without help, when no soul listed to heed their calls. Wars and peace, battles fought, won and lost, progress profaned, peace lamented. The big meetings were convened, and all the warriors were congregated to pay homage to their new gods, the gods known as capitalism and the market economic system of old. Then the elites of the new ages were chosen to run this newfound program of economic growth and political power for the ruling class. Divisions, inequality, the class system deepening. Every victory mocked, every progress thwarted, because peace is postponed, violence pervades the land. Then a call was made in the bitterness of souls to glorify wars, and access made to the new gates. There is a cycle of power relations, and the windows were closed for the many, and only the few were allowed to enter into the new gates, which sent new spells and spiritual slumbers to affect the leaders of the masses who failed to keep awake, to summon every power of old, waiting to pray again in the kingdom of the condemned. Condemnation, order of the day. Then they sat and waited for the new fireworks, and the enemies were beaten and scattered. Hope for society, for the victory, for the victory in prospect, all over the golden wilderness of righteousness, while all the vanquished renegades lamented and disintegrated to muse and persecute those annexed and more vagabond occupants who were disheartened and lamenting in a kingdom which reverberated in the lands locked in violent discourse. The story of Great Britain, the wars fought, the peace made, the peace treaties made with many nations. The story of Great Britain is a story on continuity. The gap between the many and the few, the top, the many at the bottom. Capitalism on the move. So, proclaiming unification in darkened vicinities. In these tainted Neverlands, broken souls constantly whistle from a distance, longing for a new world without borders, globalization. With new firepowers, artilleries, bombs, nuclear weapons, aeroplanes, fighter planes, militarism, democracy, peace, wars. And so the story continues. In these tainted Neverlands, there are broken souls constantly whistling from a distance, longing for a new world without borders, globalization, with new firepowers as in warfares, in the new world orders, world without borders, the global village, the gunshots burden the villagers in a dark land bereft of caring souls, dispossessed of solemn solace, vacant pageants, with privilege to live in countless affluence, stopped in glorious banking. The wars continues, the violence persists, the wealth are acquired, looted booties of warfares. In moments of war and peace, the rich getting richer, capitalism entrenched, violence persists. The evidence is there, and the next move is to open eyes wide shut, peering to the lock up fearful residents, violently robbed of much wealth and savagely abandoned and left for dead. This global capitalism is a mugger and the potential dispossessor of peoples of the world. These operatives of the working communities, of the working estates, these are potent, the producing potency, a potent dispossessor, locked in dreadful prisons, abandoned without wits, prisons of conscience, prison of the wills, abandonment of humanity, the embracers of troubles, troubled lands, troubled waters, distances unfulfilled, promises profane. Parodies proclaim kingdoms unloved, and violence freely roams the once golden lands for lack of peace, for want of peace, for longing for freedom, privilege, aristocrats. These landlords and landladies lord it over the many, while beaten, vanquished, burdened multitudes languish without help in abject poverty, and living alongside massively loaded, wealthy, stinking, rich, and stricken landlords. These are prisoners of success. These are prisoners of their own making, acquiring wealth, the ruling elites, their conscience burdened to send them home into darkened and sullen prison. The rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer. Fear and horror stalk the land for the wealth of the few, and for the poor many. The bickering masters, these bickering masters dimly stare, they stare violently at forgotten serfs, these slaves with voices in the pits of darkness, crying out loud, unheeded, unheard. Silence pervades the land. Fair Britain, no longer a country of the many, only for the few. And the world carries on as no more bickering masters dimly stare violently at the forgotten serfs. In Britain, both beauty and dark things prevail. Contradictions, opposites meet, black and white, rich and poor, lords and servants mix and mingle together in this global capitalism. The rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting poorer. The story of the great lands of the globe, Great Britain leading the congregation of the world, rich and poor. The government cries foul at the seat of power, and the voting servants meditate and look at the distant horizon. Democracy is lost in translations, and every election is hidden from the wise. Wise, wisdom, and foolery and foolishness side by side. This land of the many, this land of the few, this Great Britain, this democracy, these lost languages, this lost hope, this Britain is a paradise lost under the burden of filthy affluence, wealth despised and abandoned to rot in dungeons postponed. Britain is a paradise lost under the burden of filthy affluence, possessed by the loading few, the ruling few, the loading few, while hurried lands abandoned for wants, for lack, by the many, looking on as the few. Lord is over them, the arid lands, calling to the forgotten many. The freedom awaits. The free market economy has produced communities divided between the rich and the poor. The divide along the lines of golden wells on the one hand for the few, and on the other the sickening menace of lack among the many. Division, conflict, rule, power, kingdoms, the United Kingdom at the apex of the global economy. The system of global capitalism is extreme. And the glorious West, the Western Empire, relentlessly prevails over the violent globe. Violence by the few over the many. Violence of the many over the few. The rich meeting the wealthy many meeting the many few. Peace is postponed. There are warring citizens longing for fulfillments and hopeful victims waiting for success. The poor, the hopeful, keep dreaming on, waiting for their opportunity to cross over from one river to another, from poverty to affluence. And yet, the system the system of global capitalism, which is continually extreme, which is the glory of the Western Empire, which relentlessly prevails over the globe, reeling under the spell of violent dispensations. Then there are those warring, those citizens at war, those citizens longing for the fulfillments, for the promises. These poor, those at the bottom, the vanquished, are still waiting for the promised land. Great Britain, the promised land. The citizens are longing. The hopeful victims are waiting for success. Everyone in the new global economy gloriously rejoices in the masterful progress. Progress made, progress disdained, and yet the wishful commuters blatantly traverse the lonely labyrinths of the forgotten city squares, once loved but then abandoned. Ghost cities, empty estates, the city of London, the cities in every region of Great Britain, the ghost town, many streets, empty streets, full of wealth, full of affluence, technology, artificial intelligence. Technocrats take over to run the economy. Economies run by the machine, run by the few for the few. The people of Great Britain still wait. Britain was once a country, but no longer. Relentless forces of darkness are winning, and countless multitudes of beaten disciples bemoan their stricken warlords. These were people of faith in the country, in the kingdom of Great Britain. In this glorious kingdom of Britain, God has sent his holy angels to lament the deaths of beaten citizens succumbing to deadly fevers, while the National Health Service sleeps. The great healthcare facilities, the great healthcare services sleeps. Society has awakened to an empty country, a country sold off to the highest bidder, to the few at the top, the multimillionaires at the top. The country sold off to the highest bidder. The Great Britain remains a ghost country. In this great country, in this Great Britain, liberty is lost. In this country of great wealth, great riches rudely pile up in forgotten ruins, waste by the many, waste by the few. Amusements, shame, and glory and grace mix and mingle together in a country crying for change, hoping and coping with many wrath, while blurring cyclists on the streets of Great Britain breed skylarking brides. They are feeders on human flesh. They are feeders on dead corpses. They breed skylarking brides, sighing beneath frying pans. The heat of the moment, the fire burns freely. Frying pans clad in golden reeds, the golden estates of affluence, full of contradicting forces. Beautiful souls dressed in attires of golden apparels. These fly and continue to fly. These golden reeds flying amidst tightening labyrinths, crisscrossing different cities of Great Britain. Participants, occupants, looking for what wealth may be found in this wealthy, in this richly country. While distances traversed in guiding temples, people of prayer, people of Christendom, people of many faiths, multiculturalism, racing fast forward in solemn songs, songs of victory, songs of treachery, songs of failure, of success, praying and praising God, the God of all gods, creation, the Creator, which created Britain, a Christian country, Christian and Muslim multiculturalism exhumed and portrayed on walls of agony and walls of glory and on walls of peaceful discourses. These ancient gods, these praisers, these praying temples, these praising citizens, pray and pray to the God. As ancient gods freely roam and pray, saying their last farewells. Gods and wild animals, gods and every animals for the slaughter, sacrifices, bidding their farewells, saying their last words, in open fields, in the countryside, in city squares. These are in open field. They are freed from apathy, singing their final song of freedom and restraining resources uncommitted. Others of wealth, people who keep piling wealth, capitalism, proclaim, there is the white glance, requiring benefits, beefed up in fair details, policies of complexities, policies of wealth and welfare, policy of free market, policy of growth and economic development, the transferring of wealth from the hands of the many to the hands of the few, the developments, the finishing touches, with a few more classes left, vacancy unfulfilled. The rich getting richer, the poor getting richer, the top ruling elite look on by. The leadership training had begun. New skills, customer skills, leadership skills, management skills, skills of rule, of torture, of liberty, of darkness, of light, of growth, of lack, of abundance, of poverty, of riches. Leadership training and mere mortals continues to succumb. Ordinary people of the world continue to wait in vain. They listen and sit in still occupancy, in silent romances. They wait. No one told them there was no more posts left. Unemployment over the roof. Poverty obtains. The rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer. Everyone crushed their cause. There is a rush to the wind, to the top, the hope of the many postponed. While the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Massively, they lead along. Massively, leaders leading the many, leading them astray, leading millions astray, leading billions of the earthling, leading them along to quit, leading them along to acquire the same leadership skills to no avails. More learning, more longing, more wanting, but the stagnation persists. The space is filled. At the top, no longer traffic, moving traffic, stagnant traffic no longer avails for the many of the world. It's the few at the top getting richer, and the many at the bottom getting poorer. Not so, they ask. They wait. They believe. They hope in their leaders, in their countries. Not so, they say. These occupants are no quitters. These occupants restrain. These occupants restrain no non-occupants. These estates of the ruling elites, this beacon of hope for the many, fulfill in the few, this estate of the ruling elites, aiding well ahead of the pack of the many, following the lead of the ruling elites at the top. These following pack, reeling behind, bounded among slackened heaps of missing ballads. They ask to write personal statements. They are challenged. They are marooned into silence. As mere vagabonds freely roam the forgotten wastelands. Land of the Western Empire is silent and forgotten for the many, only sounding clear clanging bell for the few at the top. The depths frame miraculous apertures. Golden dramatists iterate many waterways, sinking deep amidst forgotten pastures. These leaders of hope, these leaders of doom, hope for the few, doom for the many. These marooned into gloomy accommodations, council flats, social housing in Britain, harboring sullen occupants, touring their talents, turning their talents into skill, employment training, welfare economy, unpardoned, unwelcome. They lead to the road to nowhere. Poverty persists. Echelon of power. The doors are locked shut. The many are excluded, the few are included. Employment, unemployment, training, education, skills. The ruling class remains at the top, the working class at the bottom. Promises made unkept. There is a further call. A call of turning talents into skills. While the ruling elites continue to champion at the top the workers of the world. These prospective rulers, they rule in their fantasy, and they look to the top, to the real and championing rulers of the world, the many, the few at the top. These ruled while the rest of the world mused amid forests of glistening skyscrapers, structured for rules unchallenged. These ruling elites with absolute power look down on the many who are below on the streets with skyscrapers shining bright under the sun. This sunshine never shining its lights on the many, walking alongside the few. And this structure of rules are absolute. Their powers are unchallenged. Brazen comforters, gift boxes. These boxes are boxed up. It serves with fervent holy brides of the foreign kingdoms walk on by. The ruling class demonstrate their own egos. The economy of envy, the economy of hope, of appetite, of expectation. And they go the extra mile in courting ailing traders, training along forgotten paths, shepherded by alluring perfumes, preen in striking trinkets, sparkling bright in kingdoms darkened beneath everyday dispensation. All postponed promises unkept for the many, while the few lord it over the broken spirited at the bottom. Darkened spirits lure the condemned, while acts of God summon wailing delinquents to attend the pulpit, mud under the covers of pouring liquids, grace in scarlet magmas. There is violence, there is peace. The two sit side by side, hope and despair. In Great Britain, fair values teach good success, declaring inequalities in words in which all men are created equal. There goes the mantra of peace, democracy, freedom, human rights. So, where are the leaders now? And when will the servants attend to their urgent needs? Servants abandon technology, taking over jobs in Great Britain. The slaves are now not wanted, they are abandoned. They cry for love in vain. Where is democracy now? And when the citizen will when will the citizen congregate? There is a scattering of souls everywhere in every corner of Great Britain. Lost souls, forgotten, in peace and in war. Technology has taken over the estate of the working empires. The many no longer needed are sent into dark concentration camp. Big pastors refuse to remain anonymous. They speak out to God. And God is unimpressed. While dark practices empties the servants, injustice, social inequalities, violence, wars, death, human wrong. Have the servants now turned into emperors? Is there a change? Is there a contradiction? Who is driving globalization now? the many or the poor? That is the question. Now that those ancient demons have awakened, what will the many and the few do living in Great Britain, the unholy celebrants functioning under the incongruent New World Order? Which way, Great Britain? Which way do the rich and the poor, which way do they take? These people are white, and they are also black ones, living black, living white, black and white living side by side in a country of class, in a country of wealth and poverty, sitting side by side, while others have changed into different shades of complexion, many colors, many peoples in Great Britain. The society, the classless society, society of class, between the many and the poor. Some are brilliant white, while others are pitch black. These two live together, and yet many more are pink and blue. Many colors, many complexion in the classless, in society of class between the rich and the poor, the many and the few. Which worlds are they heading to? The future. And which colors are they going to include? Which ones are to be included? Which ones are to be excluded? Mere mortals have stoked rusts for decades, and many have become angry. They are angry. Their anger has turned their skin bright into bright red color. Yet their coloration pale into insignificance. Their propositions in a world full of thickets and briars, pain, constrictedness, lust, pride and prejudices, war and peace. Yet silence pervades the land, while children of Oxford universities absently pray. They pray in entrenched materialisms. Modern teaching of society, the ruling elites, those born and bred to lead outside in these cities and towns, villagers repeatedly fall in love with the past, present and future, with fantasy, beautiful cities, beautiful environment, display attractions, irresistible allure, with many colors, combinations, and darkened clouds spew visible fantasies. The many, the few living in worlds of amusements, the millions view in amusements. These go freely with the flow while peaking to immerse in perpetual imaginations, lapping up deepening spaces attired in endless bliss, to welcome wanton predators in ancient consuming orgies. The story of Great Britain in the modern age, the story of affluence and of poverty, of beauty and ugliness, cultures and estates. As we traverse the lands as we procure the edges, as we move forward into the world of the globalized estate. Thank you so much for listening to this poetry. It is still being written, and these poems will be changing on a daily basis, and it is still being written, and this is the second one. Leave a comment below, subscribe to my channel, and let me know what you think about this poetry and the issues thereat. It is mostly written in abstraction, and my prayer for you to fare well and enjoy. Share with family and friends, subscribe to this channel. Thank you. See you in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.